Welcome to Mobility for Pickleballers. This is a huge area that every pickleball player I know neglects, and every pickleballer that I know absolutely needs. So, we're going to start with a little assessment of your mobility, general mobility, and then we're going to do some stretches and interventions and exercises, and then we're going to retest that mobility, and we're going to see what improves. The biggest thing that a pickleballer needs is this position. You watch any good, decent pickleballer, and they hang out in this position, right? They're up at the kitchen line, they're able to dink, they're able to speed things up, and then they move their feet. They don't come up and move their feet, and they don't lunge, so they don't have to move their feet. They move their feet, they get into position, and then they stay here. This is a squat, people. We spend most of our lives sitting in chairs from the time we're 5 years old up until we graduate high school or college or wherever. And so we end up looking like chairs, right? Our hips are not used to bending past 90 degrees. Our knees are not used to bending past 90 degrees. And our body is certainly not used to holding us in this sitting, squatting. I call this the going to the bathroom in Port Authority position, right? Like if you had to go to the bathroom in a nasty public place, that's how you do it, right? At least my ladies in the group. Guys, probably the same way, right? So that's the first thing we're going to test is we're going to look at your squat mobility. The first thing I want you to do is see how low you can comfortably squat. You might get a pop or a creak. You're going to hear my knees and hips and ankles pop and creak. That's fine, right? See how low you can comfortably go down. You might end up on your heels like this. You might stop here and just feel like, oh, it ain't going any further. You might notice that as you go lower, your chest gets closer to the ground, right? That's not a squat, but nice try. Your body's finding a way to compensate. That's like the quickest and easiest assessment of mobility I can give you. The second most easy and quick assessment is what I just did. Cross your feet, sit down, slowly and controlled, do not crash, to the ground. Okay? And then stand up using that same strategy. Okay? I'm telling you, the only reason I can do that, go ahead, you guys go, I'm going to keep going. The only reason I can do this is because about 10 years ago, I learned how important this motion is to keeping my joints and bones and body and ultimately my life healthy. So now I do it every day. Literally every day I get up and off the ground like that. And I have all of my patients learn how to do that too, because it's a really important skill and it requires full mobility of our hips, knees, ankles, and low back. And then it requires strength in those areas to be able to beat gravity. So that's the second area of mobility. There's a 5-point scoring system to this. Basically, you subtract 1 point for every point of contact that needs the ground. So I only use my feet, so I get a 5. Right? But if I can go down, and let's say I need a hand to push me up, I get a 4. If I need 2 hands to push me up, or I need a hand and a knee to get up, I get a 3. If I use 2 hands and 1 knee, or 2 knees and 1 hand, I get a 2. If I need 4 points of contact, if I need 2 hands and 2 knees to get up, I get a 1. And if I can't do it, or I need to go crawl over to a chair or a table, or I need someone's help to get me up, I get a 0. I will post a link. There's a really good study that was done that showed the links to the scores on that test and people's longevity and the quality of their life in their last decade. The people who got higher scores, 5, 4s, and 3s, really 5s and 4s, live better lives than those who get 3s and less. Your goal should be to score a 5 on that and reach for a 5. If you reach a 4, great. Okay, but that's really important. Ask any little kid to do that, they pop right up. It's because they haven't had a lifetime of repetitions of sitting in one position. Right? That's circle time at kindergarten. That's playtime at the library where they're sitting on the carpet. Right? We just don't do that as adults anymore. So it's not because you've gotten old. I hate that as an excuse. There are old people in certain areas of the world that are the healthiest specimens that we have of our species. So don't give me that you're getting old. It's because of the lifestyle that we've lived, and it's not all your fault. It's not all anybody's fault. It's the lifestyle that we've lived over the past 100 years, let's say. Okay. So those are your 2 mobility assessments. What's your squat looking like, right? Pay attention to what your knees, your ankles, knees, hips, and back are doing. Even if you can get that low, if you're hunched over like this, there's some areas that we can improve. And if you can get to this position, which is a tough one to get to, the next step is to be able to reach and extend your arms up and overhead. Okay, so you might notice, like, I get to here and I'm like, well, I can't breathe in this position. I can breathe in this position just fine. But when I go to extend back or I try to bring my hands closer together, it gets a lot more difficult for me to breathe. So this is a position that I try to work on every day. So all of that to say, now we have your baseline. Okay? You're learning things about yourself. The whole point of this is to learn things about yourself and then eventually to get you better at those things. The first place we're going to intervene on is in our hips. Okay? 3 big main stretches that I do, and I'm going to use the word stretches and mobilizations. For the purpose of this, those mean the same thing. Those don't actually mean the same thing, and I'll explain that in another time. Okay, from here, we're going to rock side to side. Okay, this is going to humble a lot of people. You can put your hands behind you. You can post them up behind you. And just rock left to right. So your feet should be a little wider than shoulder width. Okay. And just pay attention side to side. You might notice one side moves easier than the other. You might notice some things are uncomfortable. You might notice you have to lean back or lean forward to accomplish that. Okay. Most people are going to be just fine right here. If you can get both knees to touch the ground, and the only reason I can do this is because I'm a physical therapist and I literally do it every day. Okay, so don't feel bad. Most people cannot get into these positions and stay there pretty comfortably. And again, it's not because you're old. Don't give me that. You've had a lot of birthdays, but your biological age and the age that you feel does not have to match the number of candles on your cake. Right? So this is a really good intervention. It's a good assessment, and it's a good intervention to start getting those hips mobile. Okay. So the progression, I just went to it, is to do this with no hands. Okay? The in-between step is to do it with one hand. And then I actually like to add a reach to go up and opposite of the side that I'm on. Or no, to the same side, excuse me, that I am. So if my left leg is flat on the ground, I'm reaching with my right arm over to that left side, and then vice versa. I'm reaching up and over. Right. That should feel really good. Your body should be like craving all of this stuff. And as you're doing it, it should loosen up, right? You might notice that your 10th rep looks a lot different and feels a lot different than your first rep. That's the point, okay? So that's the first hip mobility exercise that we're going to do. The second one is what I call the world's greatest stretch, and I mean it. If I could give the whole world one motion to do every single day, it's this one, okay? You're going to get in an all-fours position. We'll do our right foot first. You're going to bring that right foot up to the outside of your right hand, and we are going to lean and rock in the direction of your toes, okay? With all of these positions, play with them. You might notice, one thing I really notice from my patients when I put them in these positions is they get to here and then they have to walk their foot up to their hand. That's fine. It's a starting point. We have to fix that. A huge barrier I see to people getting up and down off the ground is their inability or the difficulty they have to swing that hip up and get that foot there. Okay, so this is the world's greatest stretch. I'll turn so you guys can see it kind of head on. Part of why it's the world's greatest stretch, we get a lot of birds with one stone with this, right? We get full mobility of your ankle complex. I'll turn so you can see it from here, right? But if you can keep your heel on the ground and get your knees over your toes, you are loading this ankle in this position. Think of your typical old person. They shuffle, right? Part of the reason they shuffle, I'm going to come real close. part of the reason they shuffle is because they don't have the mobility in their ankle to walk and push off and get to here and push off. See the angle of my foot to my shin, right? If that has to stay at 90 degrees, I have to shuffle. If I can get it past 90 degrees, now I can walk, now I can run. Now I can get up to the kitchen line. Okay? Full mobility of your ankle. That's part one of why this one is the world's greatest stretch. Second, full mobility of your knee. Right? We get that knee in a loaded position. When the heck was your knee? When was the last time your knee was loaded at that angle? Who knows? Right? Now, 100 years ago, not 100 years ago, thousands of years ago, excuse me, when we were evolving as a species, we were in this position all the time. We had to hide from stuff, right? We were prey for some animals. So we had to hide under bushes and trees, and we had to get down here. So you were built to do this. We just don't anymore, okay? I get really fired up about this stuff because it's so simple, but it matters. So that's the other reason that I like this, is we load this knee in this position. The other thing that we're doing is we're stretching the front of that back hip. Right? So again, think of your typical old person. They shuffle, and they shuffle probably because they lack the ankle mobility, okay? And that shuffle, we can't get our hip behind us. We can't get our foot behind us if we shuffle. So of course, the muscles in the front get really, really tight. So now we have this vicious cycle of, well, our ankles don't move, so now our hips don't extend. Because in order to get that extension of my hip, to get my foot behind me, I need more than a 90-degree angle at my ankle. Okay, I'm going to get really close and show you. Okay, to get my hip behind me, I need this mobility of my ankle. Okay, if I keep my hip equal to the rest of my body, I get a 90-degree angle. If I go less, I get greater than a 90-degree angle. Okay, so full extension of the opposite hip. Okay, and then the other move that I like to do here, switch sides if you haven't, I just talked for a long time, right, is get that other hip up, and now I will go, excuse me, out to the side with this. And that's going to move the ball in the socket joint at my hip. Okay? When we move, a lot happens in our body. It's a beautiful, complicated, intricate, artistic process for movement as a whole. And that's from doing this kind of stuff to reaching up and grabbing a coffee cup in your cabinet. One of the things that happens when we move is the joints that the movement is happening in, right, where the two bones meet. So everybody, if you go back to your basic anatomy, your hip is a ball in a socket joint. The ball sits in the socket like this, and it moves like this, and it rotates, and it goes back and forth like this. When that joint moves, it sends a signal to your brain that says, hey, we're moving. We need the materials to move effectively. And your brain says, oh, one of those materials is this stuff called synovial fluid. Synovial fluid is the WD-40 of our own biology. It is the lubricant. It is the slick stuff that helps things move without any friction. Okay? When we do mobility work like this, we secrete more synovial fluid to the areas. Okay, like the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. We get a little oil in those spots, which then lets us move easier throughout our day. Okay? The key is you can't dump all the synovial fluid in there at once, right? A 30-minute yoga class or an hour of doing this kind of stuff is the equivalent of dumping one bucket of water, into the bathtub. We would rather have a slow drip throughout the day of that synovial fluid happening in there, which is why this stuff, it's better to do. If you could do this 10 times a day for 25 seconds, you'd be better off than if you did it for an hour a day and setting aside that 1 hour of like, that's the time I'm going to move, right? You're better off moving throughout the day. Again, we evolved to do that. We don't do it anymore because of the way society is, but that's what we were born to do. We were designed to move that way. Okay, so that's the second stretch. So the first one, let's review, rocking side to side. Okay. Second one, world's greatest stretch, here and here. Last one, and this is advanced, which is why I saved it for last. It's called a Cossack squat. Okay, and a Cossack squat looks like this. You're going to be like Spider-Man. Right? Now, this is one I recently started working on, so it's not pretty for me. It's probably prettier than most because I have the available range of motion. But you can see my heel is up on this side. Perfect world. I can get that heel down and maintain my posture. If I took that hand away, I'm going to fall backwards. So I got stuff to work on. Everybody's got lots of stuff to work on. If that is tough for you to get to, go grab like a door handle. Let me see if I can show you. I'm going to turn and show you on my office door over here. Okay. Grab a door handle, or if you have one of these guys, a suspension trainer, that's even better. But I'll show you on a door handle because not everybody has those, right? And just support yourself in this position. You can hold on with two hands and get into these positions, and then you can go from here. And now with support, I can keep that heel down. I got no problem keeping that heel down, right? And from that position, you can rotate your foot like a windshield wiper, okay? You will feel your hip, the ball moving in the socket joint, okay? Now, if I were going to do the other side, I'd go to the other side of the door, but then you guys couldn't see me. So I'm going to use my TRX suspension trainer here, and I'm going to go to the other side. And again, with the support, this is where I should start if I were going to start doing this as an intervention, which I'm going to improve my hip mobility. But if I took the support away, I can't breathe in this position. So I'm going to get my support, and I'm going to find a position that I can breathe in. Okay? I'm like, oh man, my body needs this. Right? I get that like satisfaction of a craving, of satisfying a craving, which is my joints and my bones thanking me for doing this. Okay? So that's the third one. It's called a Cossack squat. I don't know why it's called that. But man, you do that, your hips are going to feel like butter. And it doesn't take a whole heck of a lot. Do a little bit, a lot of times during the day, rather than setting aside, this is the hour that I'm going to move for today, and then sitting for the next 12 or 16. Okay? That's part one of mobility for pickleballers. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for spending some time and your attention with me today. Keep moving and keep getting better every day.